Okay.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and good day to all of you watching this program. I'm Pio Solon, and I do interviews on different sports matters, health matters, and fitness matters, even sports performance. Today, I am quite privileged to interview one of the giants in sports science and strength and conditioning. For those who know me, I've always said that my generation of sports scientists have always stood on the shoulders of giants. And with me this morning, is someone I've always looked up to. I first met him 10 years ago, and I was influenced by his wisdom and his drive, and how, he shaped a part of the sports science in the Philippine community. So, joining me today is none other than Mr. Nino Cinco. Mr. Nino Cinco is a master's graduate from the United States Sports Science Academy. He finished his bachelor's degree in UP Diliman, Spear. Sir, can you tell me more about yourself and how you traveled and journeyed through sport over the years?
Hi, Piers. Good morning. No, thank you for your kind words. Uh, I would say it's exaggerated. I did my part for sports science. Well, it was a long journey. Actually, I'm still involved in it in some way at this point in my life. It really started more because I was an obese child. Okay. And then at one point, I guess my father, from teasing me, convinced me to start losing weight. And I remember the first thing on sports science which I ever touched on book I ever read was actually the classic aerobics by Dr. Cooper, way
Right.
back. I think if I remember, this would be about 1974 or 75 when I was
Uh-huh.
just a teenager. So that led to it, and I kept on reading, and then I led one of Cooper's books, and then the second one and third, and I started to understand exercise physiology a lot better, which led to that interest. And suddenly since of course as usual, people saw that I lost weight, and they said, "Can you help me?" And that led from one thing to another. Uh, a part of that, which probably many people don't know, especially in the sports science community, was prior to being in sports sciences, I was in archery
Mm-hmm.
very seriously as an athlete and eventually as a coach.
Right.
And then sports science kind of brought me away from it. Um,
Yeah.
and then that's how I ended up studying abroad and coming back and then getting connected with the PBA, at that time the PABL, which
Mm-hmm.
is would be like the D League of these days, and the NPBL, and so on and so forth, and eventually ending up with Gatorade, where I was with Gatorade from 1995 uh, until 2014. It's pretty long,
Wow.
pretty
Wow.
long time.
Yeah.
And then I went freelance after that. Never stopped teaching in Ateneo somehow along the way.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So somehow the basics in terms of teaching just basic health and wellness is there. No? What is there? So along the way, well, so many things happened. And so, I guess it'll come out as you ask me questions.
Yeah. First started as an archer, and I remember you won medals for the country in the Sea
Yes.
Games.
Yes, we went to the SEA Games in 1977, and we came home. The men's team came home with the silver medal. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
individuals. Our women's team actually became the Southeast Asian Games champions, and the late Jocelyn Guerrero Acop was the most medal athlete of the Southeast Asian Games, because I think she won the gold medal individual. She won the gold medal with the team, and then she won at least two or three more in the individual distance medals at that time,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I find funny now in a sense looking back, because it all started me losing weight. I was involved with archery, and after how many years is that? Put it at maybe 50 or 55 years, I'm back in archery again,
Mm-hmm.
involved somehow with the national team, and hoping
Mm-hmm.
to bring archery back to that level,
Right.
slowly but surely,
Yeah.
because things have changed. But yeah.
Yeah. And how do you figure? Well, from 77, we won yeah, we were a medal country. I think it was somewhere 2012, 2016. We also had an archer in the Olympics.
We've had several archers in the
Yeah.
Olympics. I think as early as 1984, meron na in LA. No? Then we had 2012, we had two archers, one male, one female. Prior to that, I can't remember which Olympics, but yes, there are at least, there are at least 6 or 7 who qualified for the Olympics. No?
Right.
Knock on wood,
Uh-huh.
we might have someone qualify for 2024.
Yeah. Wow. And that's gonna be quite exciting to watch. From
Yeah.
archery, sir, you were also, from what I recall, after reading your CV, you were also working with spear ba yun? Were you teaching already in
No,
Diliman?
no. I've never really taught in UP, which
Uh-huh.
I find amusing because I graduated from there.
Uh-huh.
And I was still studying there and I was already working for Ateneo. I started coaching
Right.
swimming, which is really off, no? I was coaching swimming, but I was an age group swimmer when I was a kid. So somehow,
Yeah.
and of course, with the studies, I learned to swim. At
Yeah.
least I can claim that I gave them the UAAP high school championship at that time.
Right.
Now they
Yeah.
dominate all the categories at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I studied spear, which is now called
Yeah.
CHK. You know, spear was stood for, it was the Institute of Sports Physical Education, SPE,
Yeah.
and Recreation at that time. Our
Yeah.
dean was again one of my mentors, Dr. Perry Mecki.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me a lot of breaks also at that time because in terms of event management,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And from there you went to the PBA, and there's not a lot of people who can claim that they were the strength and conditioning coach of Jawo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. That was another, I would say, even a weird, not weird, but it was just, purely coincidence, I would say.
Mhm.
Because when I came back after finishing my master's in America, uh, the late Chris Montfort, who was my batchmate, classmate
Mhm.
in UP Spear, and then
Mhm.
he was faculty in Ateneo High School, and I was faculty in Ateneo College for the P
Mhm.
departments. But he was also the trainer for the Pure Foods team in the PABL, which was the
Mhm.
semi-pro league at that time.
Yeah.
He suddenly had to go abroad for some training for a while, and he asked me, "Can you take over Pure Foods
Yes.
uh, to train these guys?" So I said, "Sure." I had no problem about that because
Mhm.
one of the main experiences I had when I was abroad, when I was at the University of South Alabama, was, of course, we were exposed, since we were what they call graduate student athletic trainers, we were exposed to all sports.
Mhm.
So football, basketball, and all that. And then when I moved for my internship to the University of Washington, Seattle, our head trainer was a basketball addict.
Mhm.
So we did a lot. Football, of course, was the main thing because it's the biggest sport. And then
Tama.
basketball was second. So it was women's
Yeah.
basketball or men's basketball where I was
Mhm.
involved. So coming back, I was able to Chris gave me that opening and that opportunity. When he came back, he actually became the trainer of the Swift team, which was actually the
Right.
rival of Pure Foods because those days
Uh-huh.
you had competing products in leagues. So you had Pure Foods hot
Yeah.
dogs and Swift Mighty Meaty hot dog thing,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
which I actually miss with the leagues these days.
Yeah.
The lack of corporate rivalry that
Uh-huh.
happens. So I was there, and then I was there when they moved into the PBA. So at a
Mhm.
certain point, I was training the amateur team
Mhm.
and the PBA team of Pure Foods, which was mainly made
Mhm.
up of the now managers and coaches like Alvin Patrimonio, Jojo
Yeah.
Lastimosa, Jerry Codinera,
Mhm.
all those guys, Glenn Capascio, who was
Mhm.
very successful with FEU, and
Mhm.
Jerry Codinera was also successful
Yeah.
with Arellano.
Yeah.
Alvin, obviously, more on team management with
Yeah.
the Pure Hot Dogs. Magnolia now. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in 89, there was a small contract dispute with Pure Foods.
Uh-huh.
So after that, I had a small respite of about 2 months. And then And then again, out of the blue, and I have to give credit to Dr. Tyrone Reyes, that he suddenly, Robert Jaworski, I was looking for a strength and conditioning person for Ginebra at that time. However, so I got that job. It was a lot of funny stories of how that went in that sense, because he interviewed me in his home, which is
Right.
surprising for me. I was not, because Pure Food is very corporate, so everything's done in the office or you discuss things in the court. With Sonny Jaworski, well, come on, have breakfast with me at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is the different part. So that the old days of the PBA, some teams were like that. It was really more of a family atmosphere of the team, and
Yeah.
some were corporate at the minimal were corporate at that time.
Yeah. What were
So
the best memories of working with the legend Jaworski?
with Sonny, well, the guy is so disciplined. I mean, obviously as a personality, as a basketball star, he's in the situation is you love him or you hate him. There's no middle ground. It's either you have a diehard fan or a diehard critic. So that's where you are. And actually, I have to admit, prior to that, just the way he played and everything, I was not exactly a fan. But after meeting him in his home, not because he gave me a job, but just knowing the person, up to now, I'm still in touch with his kids and all that. And yeah, I mean, he's totally, different. He cares for his players, and he's the kind of leader who will do what needs to be done and be the example for his players. So like when at that time, and this was really how do you say it? It was never done. I think we were the first ones to do it. Was we included aerobic dancing in the training of Ginebra. Well, at that time they were Ginebra, and then when he tried that kind of a small rebuild and brought a strength and conditioning coach in, they came back into the PBS Añejo Ram initially. Añejo Ram 65. That was the rookie year of Peter Aguilar, Japet's father.
Yeah.
So we introduced aerobic training. I mean aerobic dance as part of their training. So we're doing that. And obviously, a lot of teams are kind of curious about it. We trained at the Ateneo Gym here in Loyola. And, people were laughing, etc. and all that. I introduced some American football drills for agility. So with drills which were not being done locally at the time from the way I've observed, which a lot are still doing to this day. Okay? It's stayed on. Some or most of the drills actually when I watched. Like when my son played for Ateneo High School and eventually in the NCAA for College of St. Benil, then I would attend practices. I would attend just to watch. I was, and some of the drills they were doing, I was just smiling because those drills, I said, shit, 87, I started that with Ginebra or with Pure Foods or whoever. But aerobic dancing, which is people found funny, we started with Ginebra. And, the thing was, of course, most of the players were laughing about it during the sessions. And then suddenly Sonny goes, stop. He walks, he was there, he stopped. And he goes in front and he tells them, look, these motions we're doing have a goal. If they ask you to do this motion, it's because they want more flexibility in your hip, etc. So you better do it. Or if not, patay kayo sa akin mamaya sa court. I mean, he believed in it. I didn't have to explain anything. He believed in it. And he was very fit. He kept himself fit. He lifted weights, which many coaches actually in the past were not into that. I remember, if I remember correctly, Chris Pa during those days, weight training wasn't part of it. It was all basketball, court drills, all those things. Conditioning was minimal. I remember even further, I was still in high school, but I had observed this because they trained in our high school field, was the Mariwasa team, which was one of the top teams in the Mika before the PBA, where they would get our football coach in LaSalle and they would do drills on football fields, doing football drills. But weight training was, if you want to do it, you're on your own. Do it yourself. But there was no team training as it was and as it is now. Like I know Alaska, they're always at Fitness First Mega Mall. Gus Vargas leads that. The sports medicine thing. So, a lot of things have changed since those days. Sonny, also his nutrition. The guy never
Right.
drank. He did. I mean, he would only. I've only seen him drink. I think twice, and
In the
it was
entire
only
time.
yeah, it was only because one. The first time I ever saw him drink was because we had won the championship in 1991. We were in the Kamayan on EDSA, right from Ultra, celebrating
Yeah.
there. And when the team toast was happening, he grabs a bottle of beer. Everybody took a swig. That was the end of
Yeah.
his drink. After that, halo-halo na siya.
Wala na.
Wala. And he watched his diet quite seriously. I think that's why he lasted so long in terms of his age playing, because he took care of his body.
Right. Right.
And probably they said he was rough, or he
Yeah.
was very heavy to play with, because he really conditioned himself. If you look at pictures from probably the 80s till about the early 90s, till about till early 90s up to about 95, and you look at his physique, just his body build, you knew this guy was lifting. That wasn't natural. I mean, he was naturally big, of course.
Yeah, it's broad-shouldered.
Early in his career, he was actually, before the big J was used, they called him. He was called Hands. Because his hands were so big. I mean, in fact, the first time he shook my hand, I felt like my hand was swallowed. Because my middle finger, that's the size of his pinky. So just think about that.
Yeah. But after, I'm sure, sir, you keep tabs on what's going on with basketball now in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think sports science has influenced some of the training? How do you think the training has evolved? What's your perspective? Because you've seen how it started.
Okay. I see it two ways.
Okay.
One part is, for the high school and college teams, I see the effects quite evidently. It's a very fast game now. It's also physical, but controlled, not as physical and dirty as before.
As the 80s.
Yeah, okay, as it was during the no blood, no foul days of the PBA. But with the PBA, I think, and if I'm criticizing the PBA, then so be it.
Yeah.
I just find it seems a little slower. Some players are fast, the ones who really follow in terms of the training. They're quite fast, but I find the PBA very slow. Now, it's not because I will not accept the fact because they're heavier players.
Yeah.
NBA players are even heavier and they're very fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the culture now of the game in the PBA.
Yeah.
Because I remember during the 90s when I was there, well, there's a lot of run and gun games and everything. Now there's more set plays, motion, and of course the three-point shot has become something. I don't know. My talks with the trainers who are in the PBA, especially like my good friend Gus, those are the changes I've seen. My joke always is, if you watch UAAP, it's quite fast. You move to the PBA, I say it's like watching slow motion of the UAAP or NCAA, whichever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Some players I dealt with who are in the PBA now, I remember they were listening to sports science. Look at L.A. Tenorio when he was at Ateneo. He listened during lectures I would give, because I was already with Gatorade and we were testing them. He would listen. He would ask questions. Chris Chu was the same thing, although he's retired now. The guys from Adamson, I remember also, like Rodney Brondial, they would really ask questions about how can I improve and all this and all that. One guy, unfortunately, who is now under medical condition is Cabrera. He's another one who's also very open to these things.
Right.
See, Coach, one time I gave a lecture to the Pure Foods teams. I was invited by Coach Richard Del Rosario and Alvin Patrimonio. Talk to them mainly about dehydration. But then again, they actually listen. So.
Yeah. And you were also the athletic trainer for the national basketball team that won silver in Beijing. No?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
And also 1994. And also 1994, but I did not go with the team to Japan anymore. I think bronze yata tayo dun.
Yeah. How do you think, well, where did we start? Parang we're not as competitive internationally compared to the 90s. Yeah. Hello, sir.
In China.
Yeah.
That point. My observation in Beijing to this day, they were bigger and faster. Plain and simple. Of course, the first game we played in, we got blowout would be an understatement. But then I think there was an intimidation factor. In fact, not only that, there were also factors that happened in China, which, you know, the usual hometown advantages.
Yeah.
You know. Here, just a side story to this. During that time when we played China, it was, for them, it was still the end of summer going into fall, so it was pretty cool. No? Probably outside, the temperature at the gym, if you went outside, it would be something like 16 or 18 degrees, which our players are not used to.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go in first half because I held the key of the locker room. You know, I mean, as an athletic trainer during those days, you were sort of a Swiss knife, you know. You were a jack of all trades. You were the trainer, you were the statistician. I would do the therapy for injuries or all that. So I held the key to the locker room. You know.
Yeah.
So pre-game, we were there, played the first half. We came in this at halftime. And would you imagine, all the windows of the locker room were open, letting outside temperature into the locker room. Our locker room was down to like 18, 16 degrees. So we were all shocked. I mean, dirty tricks na yun, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty much like Los Angeles would complain when they played to Boston during the Showtime era that they would go in and then the locker rooms would be set at 100 degrees. They didn't know why. Things like that. Alarms would go off in their hotel rooms and stuff like that.
Gamesmanship.
Well, yeah. I mean, gamesmanship on the court is fine, but yung ganon, anuhin ka sa court, as a locker room. That's an example. But putting that aside, there was an intimidation factor because China was already #1 in Asia at that time. They were really bigger and faster, I have to admit. I mean, Heck Calma and Ronnie Magsana can tell you that because as point guards, they were on the receiving end of a lot of... if you would see some of the highlights on YouTube, you'd see Ronnie was flying around everywhere. Every time he was being bumped, he would attempt to drive. You know? In fact, he was so agile that they had bumped him so hard on a drive that, you know, the basketball goals, they had that X thing. They pushed him towards that, and he was able to go through without hitting any of the posts. It was not bad, though. They really shot better, I have to admit.
Right.
But we did give them a good fight in the final game because I think we lost by 14, but it was really closer than that. It was much closer than that. In fact, in the first half, we were actually leading already.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a chance we'd get past it. And again, going back to that 1990 team, that performance of a silver medal with less than 4 weeks of training.
Yeah.
What more can you ask for?
Yeah.
That's how it was in those days because they would only select at the final time. The last minute, sorry.
And I'm sure it's quite somewhat fulfilling to look back all those years and then to see some progress. Like in the past 5 years, I think our national team in basketball has gained some ground. In FIBA. Yeah.
I wish they had been able to maintain what they did when they played in Spain, 2014 or something, or 15 or something. I don't know what the ranking is now. So I'm sometimes I get confused with the way the national team, because you have the youth team and then you've got the main team, and so I don't know who's who.
Well, I think it's just a revolving door. Like, sino yung available, sino papayagan ng management.
Right.
And but the sad part, I think, is that there's a lack of continuity from year after year. I think that's the most challenging
Right.
part
Well,
for
right
basketball.
now, I think we have to pick our fights.
Mm.
I think we have a better chance in 3-on-3 since now it's become part of the Olympic, all
Yeah,
that level.
yeah.
We might have actually a much better chance there than the actual full-on 5-on-5 basketball. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
not saying get out of 5-on-5, but have
Yeah,
plan longer, etc.
yeah,
Sort of thing.
yeah. One thing that I've really, I think, appreciated from, I think, the sports scientists of your generation was that you guys were parang the pasimuno na you were in the applied aspect. You had your teams, you were in the trenches, but you're also in the academe. And I think for yourself, sir, you had some influence with UST sports science. No? How did that come about?
I taught in UST very briefly, only for one semester. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But as far as I know, in those the we the two batches that were under us
Yeah.
at the time, most of them are the ones quite involved now.
Hmm.
Many of them, if
Yeah.
not here or
Yeah.
abroad. No.
Yeah.
So somehow, I hope
Uh,
I had some influence in their success, no? Helping them
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
If some are with basketball, either
Uh-huh.
with any of the leagues, PBA
Yeah.
or NBL or MPBL, etc. Some
Uh-huh.
are in the fitness industry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, some are with other sports.
Yeah.
Football, uh, obstacle race now, which is also a sport. No,
Yeah.
they're there.
Yeah. And looking at like your experience from master's studies in the States in sports science, I hate to ask this, but how far exactly are we in
Right?
terms of the behind in the practice of sports science now as a country,
Okay.
maybe as a profession?
I've never been to the UST lab because I know I've heard they have a new lab in the new facility. No? Because
Yeah.
when I taught there, we were still in the old College of
Mhm.
Rehabilitation Sciences. From what I've heard and talking to Joy Reyes, etc.,
Yeah.
and the others, it seems to be that probably will be the most complete laboratory we have in the country right now.
Right.
I don't know about the one with the PSC, the Philippine
Mhm.
Center for Sports Medicine, which I think they've changed the name to something else, unless
Yeah.
it's the PSI now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Would-
Now, the National Academy of Sport, I was involved with it for 3 months last year.
Mhm.
I know the lab's being set up because I was discussing all the equipment with them, making
Mhm.
selections and all that.
Mhm.
But I don't think that's been set up yet because right now it's just getting the school started. They're still constructing the buildings, all
Mhm.
those things. So um, Joy and Bong Arroyo would know how far that would be going on at this point.
Yeah.
So I think UST would have it. Unfortunately, our alma mater is way behind in terms of a laboratory, as far as I know.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's still, at least now, the facilities are improving under Dean
Yeah.
Kiko,
Yeah.
Diaz. And maybe that first, then they can go into the actual science part.
Yeah.
We tried to help them a few years back when I was still with Gatorade, but then it was still a very basic lab.
Yeah.
The treadmill there was nice, but it wasn't functioning.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Sayang eh. No?
Yeah. Yeah. And
I mean, there are a lot of facilities here which are really going to waste.
mhm.
My
Why?
experience just here the last year with archery was I discovered because I was looking for an archery range. I used to
Mhm.
I shoot in an indoor range in Mandaluyong called Benel. It's also probably the most complete archery store in the Philippines right now. But then I was also looking for outdoor,
Mhm.
and I found the range here in Cubao, of all places.
Yeah.
Somebody had mentioned it. I said, yeah, okay. So I started Googling all and looking for this thing on Facebook and even ways. Then finally says here, okay, this sports complex. And then I'm like, it's 5 minutes from my house. How can there be a sports complex in this really congested area?
Yeah.
So I eventually go and eventually I find it and I'm surprised.
Mhm.
Lo and behold, you've got this place which has a full archery range
Yeah.
up to international distance of 90 meters. And then it's got a complete basketball, volleyball court with bleachers, etc. A complete fitness center, a complete boxing facility. It's got a clinic and that's it, on all that. And no one's using it.
Sayang.
It's government. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sad to say. I know you probably noticed I've been always plugging this archery range. I mean, now very big one in Marikina. Yeah. And that was really a blessing because the first blessing was we got kicked out of the one in Cubao.
Okay.
Because the congressman suddenly said he had a budget. So we're going to build a new sports building on the land of the archery range. So you guys have 2 days to move out. 2 days.
Okay.
After that club's shooting there for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we were given the opportunity to move to this range. In 2 days, we moved in October. Last October only.
Yeah.
We moved to this lot in Marikina, which is really very central to everybody. And now, we've organized and leased it as an archery range. So we just can't be kicked out anymore. It's it's privately owned. So and fortunately the owners, their children are archers also. So that helped.
Okay. That helped a lot. I'm sure.
A lot, yeah. So
yeah. How did you find your way back to archery after all these years? Or you competed when you were young. You did all your work, business, and sports. How did that come about?
In the past, I would say in the past 6 or 7 years, it had been in my mind, thinking of going back to it. One is I felt like, if it wasn't for archery, probably I wouldn't be gotten really seriously into sport because part of that journey of losing weight was also to get fit for archery.
Right.
It happened in my early teens until I was about 2021. That process. So again, going to the fitness side, my losing weight was not something I did in a few months. It was something that was very slow and long term. Because obviously I was still growing because I started to want to lose weight at about the age of 13. And obviously the growth spurt and all that coming in. So sabay-sabay na lahat yun. And of course I was competing at the same time. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I was teaching recreational activities as part of my duty at the Ateneo Loyal Schools PA department. And obviously recreational activities, as you probably know, is we deal with any activity under recreation, which is so broad. Then it just hit me suddenly. Said, "You guys want to try archery?" And they said, yeah. So, on one weekend, instead of meeting during the week, we said we'll meet on a Saturday morning at an archery range here in Ortigas so the kids could experience archery. So they went there, and so I just started shooting by also. And I was thinking, well, it should be fun to just do this for fun. Competition wasn't in my mind at all. And my daughters came with me, and actually it's something in my past which I had never really told my family. So they only found out probably in what's it now? 2020, about 2016, 17, something like that. I had been funded. And then we watched the Southeast Asian Games, the one that was held here in 2005. No, yeah. Was it 2005? No, 19 was the last one. What was the one previous to that?
2005.
Was it 2005?
Yeah.
Okay, just backtrack a little. We watched that. We watched football here in Marikina, our women's football team. And then I was talking about the Southeast Asian Games. Then my son said, "How come you know so much about the Southeast Asian Games?" And well, I competed it before. They're like, "What?" Yeah, I said, "Oh, how did you do?" I said, "Yeah, I got a silver medal." They're like, "What?" Anyway, so I go to this box and I dig out the medal.
Memorabilia.
But it was tucked away and not seen or anything. So I showed it to them, and they're like, "Wow," because obviously at that level, and the Southeast Asian Games, the Asian Games, the medal has a standard size, so it's pretty big, So, so we tried that with my class, and then every semester it became something which we would do. Part of my recreation activity class, we would go and they would try archery, and a lot of them were fans of what was that, Hunger Games.
At that
Hunger
time,
Games, and then they watch Arrow on TV and all that stuff. So yeah.
Uh,
And then eventually, right before the pandemic, actually, was I came back to it. That's
mhm,
January 2020. Out of the bloom, my two daughters said, "What? You guys want to go shoot just for fun?" Just said, we were
mhm.
just kind of bored. So we went over to Mandaluyong and we shot. Then the next day we went back and shot. And before I knew it, I
Yeah,
was going back like 3, 4 times a week just to shoot.
right.
It was also I was also opening up with the range if I could bring my class, because I was
Mhm.
already talking to our PE director if we could
Yeah.
bring in archery as part of the PE program, because
Mhm.
Ateneo has the facility for it if it wants to,
Right. Yeah.
indoor. So rain or shine, it could be done. No, there are two facilities there
Yeah.
existing in the P depart under the P department, which can be easily used as a multi-purposing, and archery could easily be part of it.
Yeah.
So from there, I started, shooting just for fun, Obviously, for fun. Suddenly, you're thinking, oh, yeah, this is a nice score. Slowly
Yeah.
and surely, suddenly, I'm getting a little more serious.
Mhm.
I get better. I was only renting equipment, and then now, okay,
Yeah.
no, I bought my own equipment
Yeah.
again.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then started joining online tournament. Of course, the pandemic stopped the plan for Ateneo.
Yeah.
Uh, so I got more serious, started competing in online events, and then suddenly the results of the online events kind of was a wake up call for me,
Mhm.
because I knew during my time up to I think the late 90s, the Philippines was a you could call quote unquote a powerhouse in
Mhm.
archery in Southeast Asia.
Mhm.
Okay? I'm not going to say Asia because in the Asian Games, you're dealing with Korea and Japan, and these people are
Yeah.
all Olympic medal winners. So they're in
Yeah.
a different level. But for the
Yeah.
Southeast Asian Games, we were either gold or silver.
Yeah.
Okay, and then from the last few Sea Games, it's not hasn't done well at all. I
Yeah.
was really surprised that in 2017. Now wait. Let me clarify this. I'm talking about Olympic archery because
Right.
from my time there was only Olympic archery, or
Yeah.
what they call Olympic recurve.
Yeah.
Okay, because now there are two categories: compound,
Mhm.
okay, compound bows, and
Mhm.
the Olympic recurve bows. So
Okay.
you have different categories now in archery. But we were, as I said, either gold or silver in Olympic recurve archery before,
Mhm.
up to about the middle 90s. If because I asked one of my teammates who had left
Mhm.
and came back and became Southeast Asian champion
Mhm.
also. In fact, his national records, two of them, stand to this day. He set one in 1986 or
Yeah.
somewhere thereabouts, and the other one he set when he went back in 1996. He set a second record, and it still stands as the national record to this day.
Yeah. So no
This is
movement.
no movement. This is like Perry
Uh,
Mackey's 400 from 1954, which was only broken
uh,
recently.
yeah. Yeah.
So, the wake up call I was referring to was I joined an online tournament. Okay,
Mhm.
Olympic Recur. And
Yeah.
for me, okay, I'll join, have fun. If I turn out last, hey, fine, no problem.
Yeah.
I was 61 years old, so
Yeah.
what should I expect?
Mhm.
And lo and behold, when the results come uh, out of 280 archers nationwide in recurve,
Mhm.
I was in the top 20.
Yeah.
So I went to my I could say he's my coach, not formally my coach, but he was the one helped checking my form and technique while I was going back. And I
Mhm.
told him, I said, there's something seriously wrong, I think, with Olympic recurve. He said, why? I said, I stepped away for more than 30 years. I come
Mhm.
back. I practiced for 6 months. I
Mhm.
joined tournament, and I'm in the top 20. I should be
Mhm.
dead last at my age.
Mhm.
And why am I in the top 20 with guys who are like 18, 19, 20, 25 years old?
Yeah.
Then he said, yeah, recurve's been having a problem for a while.
Mhm.
So that kind of, I said, I felt like, personally, I felt bad about it.
Yeah.
Being coming from that era when we were,
Yeah. Yeah.
even down to our 10th archer would be really competitive up to in the Southeast Asian Games. And now in the 2017 Olympic recurve only won one bronze
Mhm.
medal. And in 2019, as hosts, we won 0 medals.
Yeah.
We won 1 gold in compound,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's a different.
Yeah.
Which now has brought me to a point where I do both. I shoot recurve, I shoot compound because I want to understand both disciplines.
Are you looking to participate in the SEA Games again?
No,
if it's there.
That's a different animal na hindi ko na kaya pa. I mean, you have to be at now with the way they score, you have to be shooting almost all day. Our gold medalists in the last SEA Games in compound archery are practically full-time archers.
Right.
Okay. You need that. During my time, if we got to practice half a day, masaya na yun. Our preparation during those days for the Southeast Asian Games was only 1 month. I mean, when you say 1 month, it's subsidized by the Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
We had our meals during training were free.
Yeah.
All that for a month. No? But other than that, you were on your own. So pretty much still, I think, almost the same.
More or less.
Yeah. More or less, yeah. But we had much less politics.
How do you think your sport can more or less catch up, sir? I mean, like, because if they're training the entire day, I'm assuming the level of competition also came up, right? I know Korea, Japan, they're crazy. And even for like the ancient archers, the Turkish are also pretty good. The strength of the bow is like 130. Yeah, 130 pounds. Well, but that's horseback archery, I think.
Yeah, that's traditional archery.
Yeah.
That's not in the Olympic archery. There's no compound archery in the Olympics.
Yeah.
In the Olympics, the last Olympics, the guy who won the gold medal was from Turkey. He was only 21 years old. It's turned into a much younger sport.
Right.
Well, of course, my time, I was the youngest on the team. I was turning 18 when I made the team.
Yeah.
Now, our recurve team, which will be made up of 3 archers, probably their age range will be anywhere from 16 to 21 only.
Right.
Okay. Although I've checked out, been looking at the competition, the gold medalists is now from Malaysia, who could never beat the Philippines in the past. I mean, when we went to the Southeast Asian Games before, and I would say probably up till the 80s, because that's where I was more in touch. 90s, not too much. The Philippines would be looking out for Indonesia, because it could really be very close. Remember, we lost the men's gold medal in 1977 to Indonesia by 1 point. That should have been ours, if not for an equipment failure in the last 6 arrows by our archer, by the late Carlos Santos Jr. He had, unfortunately, he had an equipment failure in the last 6 arrows, and he was leading, but that caused his score to drop and the Indonesian archer to overtake him by 1 point.
1 point.
That's a loss that hurt. Okay. But he came back and he eventually became Asian champion also. So we've actually won in the Asian level also.
Yeah.
So the guy's from Turkey, he's 21. It's a very young sport now. However, compound, which is not in the Olympics, no, unfortunately, but it's up to the Asian Games, it's there. You'll see here middle-aged people, archers.
Right.
Like the ones who won the gold medal in the Southeast Asian Games, they're probably in their early 30s.
Right.
Actually, husband and wife.
Probably practice together.
Yeah. The
whole day.
They practically live at the range. So.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, if they get the benefits from the PSC as gold medalists, you can actually focus on full time at that level.
It's gonna take a while, I guess.
Yeah, it's got to be a very. I've been asked actually by the NSA. I'm writing out a short-term, medium-term, long-term plan. 24 Olympics is part of it. No. That's what's I'm still confused. Is it medium term? It's only 2 years from now.
Yeah. Realistically, I think it's one of the sports we might have a chance to medal. No?
Well, we already have a youth Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
Gabi Moreno actually won in the team event
Right.
in 2014. No, I
Right.
thought that would be a kickstart where
Yeah.
probably people say, okay, let's look at this sport. No, but
Yeah. Yeah.
some people say, well, it's such an expensive sport. I've heard actually
Mm-hmm.
pangmayaman. And actually, I tend to disagree because if you want to
Mm-hmm.
get into the sport, I mean, you probably spend so much less than starting golf. So much
Right.
less. You'll
Yeah.
be surprised. In fact, if you just want a complete set to start as a recreational archer,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually spend less than a pair of Jordans and you have a complete
Right.
set. And you can
Right.
start recreationally.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go further, of course, that's a
Mm-hmm.
different story because
Yeah.
it's an equipment. It tends to be a technical sport where equipment is
Yeah.
involved. But then,
Yeah.
if you don't want to go to that level, you don't have to. Or if somebody says, "Hey, you look like you can succeed here. We'll sponsor you."
Yeah.
Problem solved, diba?
Yeah.
So that's I that the presumption I mahal yan. It's not. I mean,
Yeah.
golf is much more expensive because how much does it cost every time just to play?
Uh, at
Okay.
least, yeah, yeah, a specific sum, significant sum.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean,
Right. Right.
at the cheapest golf course, public course you can go, probably you spend at least 2,500 pesos just to play outside.
Yeah.
And every time you play, that's what you spend.
Yeah.
Our club, you pay 1,200 a month, unlimited shooting. So
Uh,
it's the initial
no.
expense, which is a little
Yeah.
because you have to buy equipment. But once you have it and
Yeah.
if it's fine, then you're good, you're okay.
Like any other hobby, of course, it's got to cost something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say there should be some form of merit system there. Like, for example, I'll use myself as example. When I started with a locally made bow made in Dumaguete with bamboo limbs.
Mm-hmm.
When I joined my first tournament here in Manila, actually it's in Los Baños, but organized from the association here in Manila, I placed second. I was using that
Mm-hmm.
bow.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, I mean, fortunately, he was very supportive. My parents were very supportive, both of them. They said, okay, if you do well in this tournament, then we'll upgrade your equipment.
Mm.
If not, then go
Yeah.
on and we'll see.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like some now. I've seen this, unfortunately. There's a tendency when a kid, a teener, goes into the sport, they buy
Yeah.
immediately the best equipment in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't have good technique or good form, even the best
Yeah.
equipment in the world's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Forma lang
It's
yan.
like having your first car as a Porsche,
Yeah,
and you're still learning how to drive, right?
yeah, exactly.
Parang yun.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of support from parents now to get their kids into archery? Is that something
There
you're
seems to be
seeing?
well, when we started this range, the interest has gone up because it's outdoors. I think
Right.
part of the effect of the pandemic, they don't want their kids indoors because of air circulating and all
Yeah.
that. And outdoors is
Yeah.
better. And of course, all competition in terms of the Southeast Asian Games and above, Asian Games, it's
Mm-hmm.
all outdoor. There are indoor
Mm-hmm.
tournaments, but that's only done because it's rainy season
Mm-hmm.
or it's
Mm-hmm.
winter somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. The interest is growing because I
Yeah.
remember at Benel Archery Range when we went to alert level 2, on weekends, you could not, it was very hard to get a lane to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
You were fully booked the whole day. So the
Right.
interest is there. Now, the interest can be just recreational,
Yeah.
which is fine,
Yeah.
but you never know because it's from that lot of recreational archers where your next national archers will come from.
Right. Right.
And it doesn't have to be kids. You might have
Yeah.
in fact, unfortunately, we have one archer who would have been in the national pool
Yeah.
from Cebu
Mm-hmm.
who backed out. I mean, he's originally from Dumaguete, but he's based in Cebu now, who had to back out. And I think it was because of work and family reasons.
Right.
But
Right.
and he's in his 30s, and he's in his 30s. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Looking ahead, sir, how is the NSA planning to develop the grassroots? I myself, as an administrator, sports administrator,
Yeah.
as I'm talking to you, saying, "Oh, okay, this could actually make sense." I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like low-lying fruit kind of sport like weightlifting now na everyone wants to get into, but I think it could probably be in the next, tier of sports. So, yeah.
Well, okay, what the NSA is doing now is quarterly, they have what they call grassroots tournaments. We've started hosting grassroots tournaments here. When that happens, it's nationwide. It's kind of it's like an online event. Manila will have its grassroots tournament. They will hold one in Cebu. They will hold one in Jensan or Davao or both. They will hold one in Palawan, one in Baguio, that sort of thing. And then all these scores are brought together and they're ranked.
Right. Galing.
So this starts from age 11 and under up to 20 and under. Okay, because we're following the international federation's age groups. Okay. Now, what we're doing as a club, Olympus, we're called Olympus Archery Philippines. We're also doing grassroots tour. We plan to do grassroots tournaments. We were supposed to have one late this month in February, but with the alert level end of story, we have to reorganize again. But of course, not go into conflict with it. So the kids have more tournaments to join.
Right.
Because what's important here is they keep on participating. You know, they keep on practicing because you may have a grassroots tournament by the association this weekend, and maybe 2 weeks from now, there's one by the club. And then 3 weeks from that, another one by association. So, we're just leapfrogging in terms of schedules, but it keeps them very active.
Right. That's the key for kids to stay interested, for them to compete.
Yes.
And measure their ability against one another, I guess.
Maybe also, well, for me, it's also develop rapport with your other archers. It's something I've observed and something I really, personally, I don't like. And if I ever get involved in the national team, I would really do something about it. It's because, again, I said we have two categories, recurve and compound. And when we hosted the qualifier, the final qualifier of 2021 to select the final national pool. And it was the first major tournament I attended because everything was online before. Now they were all in one venue. I just noticed that the Olympic recurve archers and our our compound archers don't really mix. As in, I mean, short of saying walang pansinan, So I'm
Pickish. Pickish.
So I'm like, and I was the venue manager, so I'm sitting in the middle of the field. I have the recurve here on my right and the other group on my left, and they're not even mixing.
Right.
So I'm like, what the hell's going on? I mean, you guys are going into the national pool, you're all under one flag, and you're not talking to each other. And we're wondering why we're not doing well, because just within the group, there are so many undercurrents. So, one thing I'm really going to recommend to the association is once the national teams for the Southeast Asian Games are selected, we have to find a way to have team building activities and mix these all together. Because once they're out in Vietnam, who's going to support each other? Sila rin naman.
Sila. Yeah. Precisely.
I was like, it shocked me. So, I mean, you may be competitive individually because, in the individual event, you're really competing against others. Maski kapwa mo Pilipino, kalaban mo because you're looking for your individual glory. But majority of the medals are coming from team events. So are you going to bring that quote unquote
attitude,
competitive hostility into that?
Yeah.
Why do you think we're not winning? That's probably part of it. I mean, that's in the subconscious, but it's there, diba?
Yeah. Someone has to debrief them.
Definitely. I know the person. So I know the person. He's worked with basketball and volleyball teams who have really benefited and become successful after. So we get to that.
I'm sure, sir, you follow a lot of Philippine sports closely, especially, from your background, national athlete, and then, sports scientist, and, all your hats that you've had in sport. I'm sure you follow Philippine sports quite closely, and I'm sure part of you still cares about it. What's your take on everything that's going on in Philippine sport in the last few years?
Wait, let me choose the right words. for, for fear of any hostile reactions. Well, I think we could do much better. I mean, there's too much politics. I mean, it comes down. I mean, during our time there was politics, but it's not at this level.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, what's happening just with track and field right now, and I don't want to go into details, but you know,
It's just sad for the country, I think.
yeah,
Can't get their act together. Uh,
yeah. I did watch your interview with Michael Keon. He was my former boss. And everything he said, I totally agree with. You know, remember you asked him if you did it again, what would you change, or what would he do differently from that time? And his answers, he would not do anything differently.
mm,
And I agree with him because I had seen how it was run. I had worked with him. I reported to him directly. Okay. And we would have one-on-one sessions, and the way he did it is the way it should be. Okay, that's the way I'd say it would be. I'd say it should be also.
yeah.
Because at that time, and I've said this before to others, that Gintong Alay, he might actually have some form of difficulty if he would run the same program now, because obviously the political situation is totally different.
Yeah.
Second, not even in terms of the government.
Yeah.
But remember, Mike, I call him Mike. Michael, Mike. It's very hard to have a situation where you have the president of an association at that time, Patafa for him. He's also the president of the POC.
Yeah.
He's also the executive director of Gintong Alay.
Yeah.
That is tantamount to having, let's say,
total control.
Yeah, you would have, let's say, Butch Ramirez being president of NSA, chairman of PSC, and president of POC.
Yeah.
And therefore, that cuts so much red tape.
Yeah.
Practically, you know. Now, if you have the blessing of also being,
the nephew of the president.
Yeah, not even the nephew, just being, let's say, the trusted right hand of the president, no blood relation, that also helps a lot.
Yeah.
And it's true, he said, there's so many sports now, because Gintong Alay really started only as track and field.
Right.
And I was part of that because I was with the UP Roadrunners Club, and I was a long distance runner. And I was running with them. We would travel all the way, drive, not fly, drive all the way up to Ilocos and run races there, and then come back to Manila or go and train in Baguio.
Yeah.
Things like that. So, I had seen it from its birth until I left. I stopped being involved in after the SEA Games in 81. Yeah. Because at that time, just to shut up, the setup was, I was in charge of archery. That was the evolution. Perry Mackey, I knew Mike from UP.
Yeah.
In fact, the way we met was really kind of, it's a funny story. The way we met, the way it evolved, Perry Mackey, Dr. Mackey, appointed me as the tournament director for at that time, there was no Palarong Pambansa. It had been canceled for that year for some reason. So they put up what they called, because of course we were under President Marcos, it was called the Palarong Bagong Lipunan. Okay, so archery was held in the Sunken Garden at UP.
Right.
That was the same time that Project Gintong Alay was formed.
Yeah.
So I organized that whole tournament. We had teams from all over, NCR and all the regions. They were there for 4 days. Michael Keon visited us, and I had known him as a friend, as a drinking partner, party thing. As college students.
Yeah.
And the next thing I knew, he asked me if I want to become his. At the position was called Liaison Officer for Archery. I said, sure, no problem. So my job was really I was the guy between Gintong Alay and the NSA. But at the same time, because at that time, I already had gone to level 2 certified coaching courses by the IOC abroad. I was also coaching archery. So we selected the two national coaches, one for the men's team, one for the women's team. And I was supervising overall. the training. So I had two hats: liaison, like a team manager sort of thing, and also the coaching side. And I handled the fitness. I
Right.
was like the trainer of the team also.
Yeah.
So he gave me that opportunity. So from Perry Meki, it was to Michael Keon. And so on and so forth as it developed and developed already. But again, just part of that. If I'll only use archery, track and field that's well documented. But just if you look at archery, how Gintong Alay sustained, I would say not really dominance, but our highly competitive position in those days was that we were training every day. We had a pool of the rules are different now. You only need 3 archers in an archery team, 3 men or 3 women. Okay. Those days you were required 4 men, 4 women. But we had a pool of 16.
Yeah.
Okay. And that pool of 16 was sent to several or at least 2 international competitions. And this was all prior to the final cut for the 81 Southeast Asian Games 1 month before the games.
Oh.
So what we had was people who had been training for over a year. In that year, I think it was from 24, it cut down to 16, and those 16 archers were maintained all the way until a month before the SEA Games, because then we got the top 4 of the 16 for top 4 women.
Super competitive internally.
Internally, that was one already.
Yeah.
And of course, we were going abroad.
Yeah.
We competed in the U.S. Open. They competed in, I can't remember, it was Bangkok or Thailand, because it was one of the trips I didn't go alone. But they competed there. It was also a way of the coach to scout opposition.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Because what was very obvious there was Indonesia was always avoiding competitions where the Philippines was. Tatago.
So you had to find them out.
That's the level we were at, that they didn't want to be in the same tournament before the SEA Games, because they didn't want us to see them. And with us, if they were there or they weren't there, we didn't care. So
supreme confidence.
Yeah. But again, Indonesia has continued the same program they've had to this day. You go to any Asia Cup, World Cup, etc., Indonesia is competing there. Unfortunately for the Philippines, and I think it's mainly budget reasons, because it's not really, the sport is not high on the budgeting when it comes to maybe the PSC. And I'm not going to fault PSC totally for it, because the fact that our competitiveness has dropped is also a fault in the sense of the archers, the archery community, not just the association. Okay. It's the whole community itself. Then something should be done eventually. But again, as I said, if they say, do we have a chance there? Yes, we did, because we've had someone already in the youth gold. In 82, Carlos Santos Jr. was the Asian champion. Okay. Look at the Fermin Barrenechea's record at 30 meters. Is pretty high. He shot 352. That record holds to the day out of 360.
Yeah.
So he only had 8 arrows outside the center of the target, which is probably the size just bigger than the old 1 peso coin.
Yeah.
Think about that. The old 1 peso coin, not the new one. The new one's too small.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
The old big 1 peso coin.
Yeah. Sir, I think thank you so much for your time this morning. I think I learned so much from you, and I continue to learn from you to this day. And
thank you. My pleasure.
I really hope that sports can get back to what it was during your time. And I think, even for someone like you, I think you care so deeply about sport and what's happening now, what's going on. And, I sense kasi the love for country, from sports people like you guys. And so thank you for your input.
If you look at my Facebook page, my first post every day, like, good morning, guys, is also the Philippine flag.
Yeah.
People ask me about it. I said, why? I said, no, there's so much political color these days, not just in sports. I mean, somebody's pink, somebody's red, somebody's green, somebody's blue.
Yeah.
I'm like, but we all fall under under red, white, blue, and yellow, diba?
Precisely. We have to love our country more than our political colors, I guess.
Exactly. And I saw a post or something somebody said something. Our national sports leaders, preferably, should be former athletes, as far as I'm concerned. If you look back, when it wasn't POC yet, I think they called it the Philippine Amateur Athletic Federation. You look at that.
Yeah.
Ambrosio Padilla was the president. And he was a former, I think he was an Olympic basketball player. Yeah, he was an Olympic basketball player for us. Nerio Andolong, who was POC president during our time when we were on the national team. Same thing. I mean, these guys were, and not just sportsmen locally. They had competed internationally. So they see these things, management, just like us as we grow from being competitive, we see the management. So but if you have people who use it for other gains, that's a different story. And you see the results. Diba?
Yeah. I think we see it from a lack of competitiveness. Parang at the bottom line, sports is performance. It doesn't matter, what you do, how humble. I mean, at the bottom line, I think national sports is all about performance. If you're not performing, you're doing something wrong.
As an association, because you're tasked to do that development program and provide the performance.
Yeah.
At the same time, and I've probably seen this one way or another, some sports officials treat the athletes like they're their kasambahay. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
He said, do as you're told.
Yeah.
Don't ask questions. I mean, athletes now are different from way back.
Yeah. I think for me, it's also a coaching side. Parang over the past few weeks, we're seeing a lot of national coaches come out on media. And at the end of the day, your credibility is always going to be related to your performance. If you're not developing an athlete that can perform to top 10 of Southeast Asia at least, then what are you doing there?
We'll see.
That's just
the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how the sports scene will change after May. I mean, definitely there's going to be a new administration. That's a given. We don't know who.
Yeah.
And that whoever there, that will again change things. Okay.
Hopefully they build on the progress of the last Olympics. Although that's going to be quite difficult to match again, I think, without the systems.
Well, if the Olympics is really going to take out boxing and weightlifting, we're in deep.
Where are we going now? Anyway, sir, it was good to talk to you about sports and everything else under the sun. And I hope we do get to see each other soon. Hopefully when things get better. And so maraming salamat.
Just let me know when you're in Manila. We should, have coffee or get together and have a long conversation.
I'll do that. I'll do that, sir. Thank you so much.
Call me anytime.